Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Monday, August the 17th. It's the start of the playoffs. First round of the playoffs starts Monday. We got 4 games on Monday, and then we're going to have 4 games, every day pretty much until teams start getting eliminated. Then, we'll have like 3 games a day, maybe 2 games a day, depending on how quick some of these teams might get eliminated. We might have only 1 or 2 games a day. But we're going to have 4 game slates for at least like the next week or two. We'll break down this 4-gamer, talk about this playoffs, how it's going to work, with rotations and everything. Obviously, this is going to be a completely different, sort of DFS slate that you've been playing or compared to what you've been playing. Rotations are going to get a lot tighter. Guys, that we're getting 30 minutes a night, beforehand or might not even play at all. Like Chris Boucher, guys we've been playing a lot recently, might not even step on the floor now that the playoffs are here. So I'll be sure to break all that down. I expect starters to get heavy minutes, get back to their normal heavy workloads, which is going to make it easy for us, I guess, easier to predict what we can expect from starters. So we'll start off at point guard like we always do. Just before we do get started, guys, as always, I'd appreciate it if you would hit that like button down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well if you are new here. I will be uploading NBA videos every single day during the playoffs. I'll probably be making videos at least until the finals. I'm not sure if I'm going to make videos like for the showdown for finals, but I'll definitely be making videos, for the first round, second round, for the conference championships. I'll have videos up at least, till the finals start. So hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell so that way you never miss out on any of my new videos. You get a notification sent to your phone every time I upload. I'll still be trying to make MLB videos every single day as well, along with getting NBA videos up. So like I said, hit that subscribe button. And if you do want to get more content from me, I do have stuff available on Patreon. I will have an article for this 4-game slate posted on Patreon, probably sometime in the afternoon, hopefully by like 11 or 12 o'clock Eastern time, at least get it up a couple hours before lock. I'll do a full breakdown position by position, talk about all the plays I like at each position, the guys I feel like I'm going to have the most exposure to. I'll also have updated core plays posted on Patreon. I'll be in Discord throughout the day to answer any questions, to talk through the slate, to help you guys build out your lineup. So definitely check out the Patreon, see all that I have to offer over there. It's obviously optional, but if you want to get more content from me, I do have stuff available there. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at point guard for today. So at the top, we got Luka Doncic for 11K here against the Clippers. So I expect Luka to get back to playing his normal 36 to 38 minutes a night. We might even see him playing around 40 minutes a night now that it is the playoffs. This is a spot where, the Mavs are kind of underdogs here. The 7 seed against the 2 seed. They're going to need all they can get from Luka if they want to have a chance to win this series. I think this is going to be a very good series, for a 2-7 kind of matchup. Like, this one should be close. I don't think the Clippers are just going to go out there and like sweep the Mavs. I think the Mavs can at least make this go 6 games. We might even see 7 games here, especially if Luka's, playing at the top of his level like he normally does. Don't be, too worried about the game log or whatever. Expect Luka to get back to playing, 36, 38 minutes, being an incredibly high usage player. I will say that this is probably one of the toughest spots that he can get. The Clippers do have 2 elite defenders in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard that can definitely give Luka problems. We kind of saw that when they played during the seeding games. Luka only had 42 Draftkings points in 35 minutes against the Clippers. I'm not saying Luka's a bad play today. I just don't know if he's going to be a guy that I really try and build around. I think there's some very strong options in the 7 to 8K range. We do have some value, but it's going to be hard to find value on playoff slates because really there's no injuries. Injuries we're only going to get value if guys get injured during the game. You're not going to see guys rest. You're not going to see random late scratches. You're going to see, tight rotations, not much value. But there is a guy, or Mike Conley, we'll talk about him. He got ruled out. He had to leave the bubble. So we do have some value from the Jazz we'll talk about. If you go with that value, you'll probably be able to get Luka in today. I just don't know if he's going to be someone that I build around that is a part of my core. So let's talk about some of these mid-range options. I really like Donovan Mitchell here, 8K on DraftKings. We do already know that Mike Conley is out. He had to leave the bubble for the birth of his son. So he's going to miss at least this game and probably the next game. He should be back, though, for their 3rd game, if I had to guess, depending on if he clears quarantine or not. But if we do look at the Jazz, when you take Mike Conley off the floor, we can also take Bogdanovich off the floor, Bogdanovich off because, he's obviously out for the season, not playing right now. So when you look at the numbers with both Conley and Bogdan, or Bogdanovich off the floor. Donovan Mitchell does lead the team in usage at 30.9%, averages 1.14 fantasy points per minute, 24% assist percentage. Very solid very solid numbers for Donovan Mitchell. I expect him to get back to playing 36 to 38 minutes. We might even see him get around 40 minutes here. He's 8K, he is expensive, but the bump in usage with Conley out, I think, makes Donovan Mitchell very appealing. I like him a lot over on Yahoo. If we look at their pricing, you look at shooting guard, you got Paul George as the most expensive shooting guard at $36, but then you have Mitchell at $30. I like Mitchell a lot on Yahoo. I think he's definitely going to be someone I look to build around on Yahoo. Just a little bit too cheap, especially since Conley is out. He gets a bump. I do prefer him on Yahoo to guys like George and Van Vliet. On DraftKings, though, we're going to talk about Van Vliet. He's $1,200 less. I think I'd probably give the edge to FVV on DK, but on Yahoo, I do like Mitchell. I think both those guys project pretty closely today. But you got other strong plays in this mid-range at point guard besides Mitchell, like Kyle Lowry. His price has come down to $7,900. Expect him to get back to playing 36, 38 minutes, being a pretty productive player. This is a guy that we saw priced up, to around 9K during the seeding games. For some reason now he's only $7,900. I guess the only concern with this game is that, I think this is probably one of the bigger mismatches during the playoffs. Brooklyn, I don't think they really stand a chance against Toronto, but I guess we'll see. I think Toronto is like 10-point favorites right now. Or they're 9.5-point favorites. This might be a series we see end pretty quickly. I think the Raptors do have a pretty good chance of sweeping the Nets, but Lowry, if the game stays close, he's going to play 35, 36 minutes. He's only $7,900, so I do like him quite a bit. I think I do prefer Mitchell, though, for only $100 more. And since we have, Fred VanVleet for $1,000 less than Lowry, I think Fred VanVleet's probably my favorite guy to go to on DK. I like that price a lot at $6,800. We know VanVleet is going to play huge minutes. He was already getting huge minutes during the seeding games. In the playoffs, I expect him to get 36, 38 minutes a night. He's a very productive player, a guy that averages over a fantasy point per minute. That's really for $6,800. It's hard for VanVleet to really kill you at this price. He's normally a guy that gives you 35, 40 DraftKings points. He's got upside as well. I like him a lot at $6,800. I think he is a little bit too cheap. I think Lowry's also underpriced, but when you factor in Lowry versus VanVleet and that they're $1,000 apart, I think I'd like to take the savings and go with VanVleet at $6,800. Kemba Walker, though, don't overlook him. He's been pretty bad during the seeding games, but a lot of that has been due to him having his minutes limited. Really hasn't been getting the minutes. Well, he came out and said, there's no minutes restriction. He's ready to go. He's fully healthy here for the playoffs. So expect Kemba to get back to playing, 34, 36 minutes around there. This was a guy that was priced, in the 7K, upper 8K range a lot during the regular season. Now we're getting a fully healthy Kemba at only $6,900. I do like that quite a bit. I think he is very appealing as well. Maybe VanVleet gives you a little bit more safety, but I think there's also upside for Walker now that he's off his minutes limit. He's fully ready to go. I do like him quite a bit as well at $6,900. Jamal Murray, I have no problems with him either, $6,500. It's going to be interesting to see if Will Barton and Gary Harris are able to play. They didn't play at all during the seeding games. Now that the postseason is here, I feel like they probably they could have played if they had to, but because those seeding games, weren't too big for Denver, they just kind of held those guys out. I think there's a pretty good chance we do see Gary Harris and Will Barton return to the starting lineup, which is a small bump down for Murray. He does produce a little bit more when those guys are off the floor, but he's only $6,500. There's still plenty of upside for Jamal Murray at this price. He just dropped 53 DraftKings points on the Jazz when they played during the seeding games. So I do like him as well. This is one of the reasons I don't think Luka's really necessary to pay up for, because this mid-range is really strong. A lot of guys here, Mitchell, Lowry, Walker. I think all these guys are very appealing. And there's even some value we'll talk about. But the mid-range I like a lot today at point guard. But then if we're looking like 6K and below, not much here. I don't really want to go to Marcus Smart or Lou Will. I do expect Lou Will to get back to playing, 30, 32 minutes off the bench, somewhere around there. I don't expect him to just get like 20, 22 minutes. I think they were just, kind of not pushing him too much during the regular season, during the seeding games when it really didn't matter. Not the postseasons here. And I think we're going to see Lou Will get back to his normal role, coming off the bench and playing around 30 minutes. At 6K, he's somewhat interesting, but, not a guy I feel like I have to have today. So the value play that I think really sticks out at point guard is Jordan Clarkson. So without Mike Conley, I think it's very likely we see Jordan Clarkson get the start here. don't really look at his game log during the seeding games. A lot of those 2 games where he only played 14 minutes, those were due to them, resting them in the second half. There was one game, I think, where Conley was out, or maybe, I can't remember if Conley was out or not, but I know Clarkson had a huge game right at the start of the seeding games against the Pelicans. 32 minutes, 37 Draftkings points. Like, Clarkson's a productive player when he gets minutes. The minutes should be there now that Mike Conley's out. We take a look at his numbers with Conley off the floor. Has the second highest usage rate on the team at 27.3%. Averages close to a fantasy point per minute. Should play around 30 minutes, maybe more. I like Jordan Clarkson a lot as a value. He's one of the few values that we do have on this playoff slate. He's going to be a guy that I look to build around on both sites. $3,800 on DK, $15 on Yahoo. I do like Jordan Clarkson a ton. Reggie Jackson, I think he's interesting at $3,600. His minutes have also been kind of up and down, but now the playoffs are here, I expect him to get his normal minutes, around 30 minutes. I'm not sure if Patrick Beverley is going to be able to play. Looks like he's considered questionable for this game. So if Beverley does wind up sitting, Reggie Jackson's probably going to start and play around 30 minutes. At $3,600, he's not too bad of a value play if you do want to go there. I do want to mention, lastly, Emmanuel Mudiay. So, like I said, I expect Jordan Clarkson to start for Mike Conley, but wouldn't be surprised if they, want to keep Clarkson with the second unit and bring him off the bench, and then they start Mudiay. Just keep an eye on that Utah starting lineup. This is the first game on the slate, so we'll know their starting lineup before lock. If Mudiay does wind up starting, he's questionable right now, but I assume he plays. If he does wind up starting at minimum salary, he's going to be a top value play. So that'll be something we, need to watch today or tomorrow heading up to lock. But looking at shooting guard now, I really like Caris LeVert at the top here. I think he's probably one of my favorite plays on the slate. $7,600 on Draftkings. I think he's underpriced. Looking at Yahoo, you got Caris LeVert at point guard, and he's coming in at $34. He's cheaper than Lowry. He's, almost over $20 cheaper than Luka. I think Caris LeVert has the upside to, be one of the highest scoring players on this slate. We've seen it the last few games. They've really, unleashed him. Played 35 and 33 minutes those last 2 games during the seeding games that he played in. 55, 61 Draftkings points. Now that the playoffs are here, I expect Caris LeVert to play probably huge minutes every night, 36, 38 minutes. He is going to be incredibly productive when he's on the floor. Obviously, the Nets are incredibly shorthanded. LeVert's kind of their main guy right now. No Kyrie, no Spencer Dinwiddie. They're also missing DeAndre Jordan as well, and I think they're also missing one more guy. Yeah, they're missing Taurean Prince, so that's pretty much 3 starters and a really, a bench guy that plays good run as well in DeAndre Jordan. Although Jordan, not the same position as Caris LeVert, but with those 4 guys off the floor this season, Caris LeVert's played 235 minutes without them on the floor, has a 34.2% usage rate, averaging 1.35 fantasy points per minute, 31.5% assist percentage. I like Caris LeVert a lot here. My only concern is that Brooklyn is definitely, undermatched when it comes to Toronto. This game could get pretty ugly. Toronto has the chance to blow them out. But if it can stay close, it's going to be because of Caris LeVert. Like, if this game does stay close, it's probably going to be because Caris LeVert is going nuclear. He's their main guy right now. He's going to do all the scoring. He's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. Going to get so much usage. At $7,600, I think that's too cheap for LeVert now that we can expect him to be fully unleashed, playing 36, 38 minutes in the postseason. He's got 60-point upside. He's a guy that I'm looking to build around today at $7,600. And, obviously I like him a lot on Yahoo as well, only $34. Maybe, the somewhat tough matchup against Toronto, or people might be scared of blowouts, so they'll get off of LeVert. But I think LeVert's an exceptional play today at shooting guard. I do prefer him over someone like Jaylen Brown. Given the savings, I think I do prefer him over Donovan Mitchell. But talking about Yahoo's pricing, I think that's where Mitchell looks the best. He's only $30, so he's actually cheaper than LeVert on Yahoo. But now looking at other shooting guards, not much stands out here in the mid-range. It will be interesting to see if Will Barton plays today. I think he does play. Now that the postseason's here, I think these guys are going to try and gut it out and play. I assume Barton's back. At $6,600, I don't really want to go there. I just rather spend $1,000 more and get up to Caris LeVert if I can. In this 5K range, without Mike Conley, I think Joe Ingles gets a little bit of a bump. He didn't really do much, or didn't do too much during the seeding games, but a lot of that had to do with him being limited. He's not going to be limited here. Expect him to be back to playing 32 to 34 minutes a night. I can't remember his numbers, but I think he averages close to a fantasy point per minute without Mike Conley on the floor. Should see a bump in his assist percentage. Should get a little bit more usage as well. should have the ball in his hands a lot when Mitchell and Clarkson are off the floor, or even with Mitchell just off the floor whenever he takes a break and has to go to the bench. I do like Joe Ingles at 5,300. I think he's probably one of my favorite plays in that 5K range. Not really much stands out here. If I was going to play somebody, though, it probably would be Joe Ingles. In terms of value, though, I don't think there's really any value I want to go to. Like Gary Harris, if he plays, will he be limited? I'm not sure. Even if he plays and starts, I doubt I'd go to him at 4,300. He just hasn't been the same in terms of fantasy, even when healthy. Like, he's just not the same productive fantasy guy that he used to be. So that's probably it for me in terms of shooting guard value plays. I don't really see much here that I want to go to. So, yeah, I think we covered shooting guard. Let's go ahead and talk about the small forward position. So at small forward, you got Kawhi at the top for 9,800. I don't think I'm going to get to Kawhi today at 9,800. I just think he's a little bit too expensive. If I'm going to pay that much, I'd rather get up to Luka if I can, or go down to some of the guys in the 8K range that we talked about, like Donovan Mitchell. We'll talk about Jokic, who I like a lot at his price. Kawhi's just never someone I feel like I have to pay up for, especially when he's close to 10K. Now, when you get Kawhi at like 8,700 like he was against Dallas, when you get him in the lower 9s, upper 8s, that's when he becomes appealing. But at 9,800, the upside is just not really there. Like, this isn't a guy that's going to go out there and get 60 Draftkings points. He usually lives around 45 to 50, and that just doesn't get the job done when you're 9,800. I do expect Kawhi to play huge minutes. I expect him to be close to 40 minutes every game because the playoffs are here. Obviously, you need to win as many games as you can. You need to try and win every game. At 9,800, though, I just don't think I'm going to be paying up for Kawhi. If I had to choose between like Tatum or PG, I think I'd probably go to PG. But I don't feel like I'm going to be really paying up at small forward much. Depending on what happens with Gary Harris and Will Barton, someone like Michael Porter Jr. Could become very appealing. He's 7,100. The price did come down a little bit. This is a guy that was playing huge minutes most nights. The only reason he got 24 and 25 minutes the last two seeding games were because Denver just chose to rest their guys in the second half or in the fourth quarter in those games, so he didn't play his full amount of run. If no Barton, if no Harris, I do expect MPJ to continue to start. He might even start even if those guys come back. Like, they might mix up their starting lineup and maybe go with like Murray, Harris, Barton, and then move Paul Millsap to the bench and then start Michael Porter Jr. at the 4. They could do that. They could maybe move Gary Harris, like make Gary Harris come off the bench, which is something they've done before. I wouldn't be surprised to see MPJ still start even if Harris and Barton are both back. This is a guy, when he gets starters minutes, like, he can be incredibly productive. I mean, we saw what he did during the seeding games. He was one of the best players during the seeding games, just going out there and putting up 50 Draftkings points almost every night, getting huge minutes. I expect him to be back to playing huge minutes. Even if he does come off the bench, I still think he probably gets about mid-20s in minutes, but I would rather see him start because if he does start, I'm more confident that he plays in the 30s, which is kind of what we need when he's 7,100. Definitely going to have interest in MPJ, though, if Barton and Harris are both out. And even if they play, it'll just be interesting to see. If they still start him, then I think that would make him appealing. But other small forwards, not much stands out here. I think Joe Ingles is fine at 5,300. In terms of value plays, I don't really see any value I want to go to. Like OG for 3,500, I think is pretty appealing. This is normally a guy we see priced around the 5K range. He should be back to playing his normal minutes. He was out Friday, their last game, but that was obviously because they had nothing to play for. Now that the playoffs are here, expect OG to be back in the starting lineup and probably playing around 32 to 34 minutes. For 3,500, as a punt play at small forward, I think he is definitely viable. You never know what you're going to get from OG. Like, he can go out there and put up 30, 35 DK points. He can go out there and put up 15. Like, he can play 40 minutes and put up 15 Draftkings points. I wouldn't be surprised. He's only 3,500. He's really, really cheap. I do like him a good amount as a cheap small forward. If you want to punt this position, I think he's the guy I like. Royce O'Neal, I think, is very appealing as well. He's only 3,500. I expect him to continue to play pretty big minutes. During those seeding games, he was priced around the 5K range, and I guess because, he only played 11 and 14 minutes, was really disappointing, but that was because they limited him. I guess they dropped his price because of the two, bad games, but you can't really look at that because he didn't even play barely. Expect Royce O'Neal to get back to playing, 34, 36 minutes. For 3,500, he actually looks like a pretty solid value as well. Normally a guy I don't like playing because he's just not that productive of a player, but he's getting all the minutes he can handle. No Bojan, so, he's going to get a lot of time at power forward. That does solidify his minutes. I actually like Royce O'Neal quite a bit as a small forward value play. I think him and Jordan Clarkson, probably look like two of the better values under 4K today. I think Utah is just going to be a team in general that we probably want to target for value. And if Moutier were to start, then Moutier would also be a really good value play. So definitely like some of those cheap plays from the Jazz. Clarkson, O'Neal, Moutier potentially. Those guys look like pretty solid values today. Given the OG's 3,500, Royce O'Neal is also 3,500. Given those two guys are the same price, I think I'd actually go with Royce O'Neal, especially just because he's been more productive than OG has. OG might play more minutes, but I think Royce O'Neal's the guy that I would like there. But let's go ahead and move on to power forward now. So at this position, not much at the top that I love. I think Tobias Harris is fine for 7,800. He should get a little bit more usage with no Ben Simmons, but Joel Embiid is back. The Sixers are almost fully healthy. They're just missing Simmons right now. Harris was actually pretty good in the games that he played his full minutes. I don't really look at the last two games because he had his minutes limited in both of those because they had nothing to play for. Now that the playoffs are here, expect Tobias Harris to play close to 40 minutes a night. For 7,800, I think he is appealing. I think I would prefer him over Siakam, even though Siakam's been, a guy we normally like, a guy that's normally priced around 9K, up in the 8Ks. We're getting him at a pretty big discount as well. He just hasn't been great lately for fantasy, even in the games where he's played his full minutes. He was not good at all during the bubble. There was games where he was still playing, his normal minutes. He scored under 40 DraftKings points in every game in the bubble. Maybe that is somewhat of a concern. Has the production level gone down a little bit for Siakam? Is he given, or are we seeing Lowry and Van Vliet get more usage? I think I'd rather go to Harris for just a little bit more. Al Horford I do like, but I can't play him on DraftKings at 7,200. I think Horford, he's too expensive on DK at that price. But if we do look over on Yahoo, you got Al Horford coming in at only $20. He's $9 less than Gordon Hayward. He's $12 less than Siakam. I actually like Al Horford quite a bit on Yahoo at only $20. I do expect him to start here. He did start the game against Portland, or the game against Orlando. After Ben Simmons got hurt, it was going to be interesting to see what they were going to do with their starting lineup. They decided to, just put Horford in at power forward in place of Ben Simmons. And in that game, he played 30 minutes, had 36 fantasy points. The next game, he had his minutes limited. He pretty much had his minutes limited the last 3 games they played, but he was still productive on a point-per-minute basis. I expect Horford to be back to playing 30, 32 minutes, maybe even more. Normally, I don't like playing Horford whenever, he's playing alongside Joel Embiid because he's just not as productive of a player. But he does get a bump with Ben Simmons out. Sees a little bit of a bump in his usage and his assist percentage. At $20, I actually like Al Horford quite a bit here. I think we're going to see one of Horford or Embiid on the floor at all times. There's a good chance that Kyle O'Quinn, Norvel Pell, those guys aren't even in the rotation now the playoffs are here. Horford should be pretty productive, especially when he gets time on the floor without Embiid. I do like him a lot at $20 on Yahoo. I think he really stands out at that price tag. $7,200 on DraftKings, I think that's a little bit too much for me. Probably would rather go to like MPJ for a little bit cheaper. Even try and get up to Tobias Harris if you can. But then if we're talking about value plays here, Paul Millsap's been terrible during the bubble. Hasn't been great. His minutes have been pretty limited though. Only played one game over 30 minutes. That was against OKC. He was pretty productive in that game. Now that the playoffs are here, does Paul Millsap go back to playing 30, 32 minutes? I have no idea. It seems like they're confident, I guess they're okay with giving Jeremy Grant a good run, even during the playoffs. I think Jeremy Grant's a guy that they like a lot. I'm a little bit worried about Millsap. Even if he still starts, does he get 30, 32 minutes? Do they decide to give Jeremy Grant more run? I don't really know here. I think he's probably going to be kept around the 26, 28 range because they like Grant so much and they want to give him time. I just don't expect Paul Millsap to go out there and play, 34, 36 minutes like we're going to see from Jokic, Murray. We're going to see those guys play. I don't think Millsap's going to get to that. At 5K, he only needs about 30 minutes to pay off that price. So I guess he is a little bit appealing, but I just don't think this is a position I want to pay down at. I like MPJ. I like Horford a lot on Yahoo. I like Tobias Harris at the top here. And then we do have value with like OG. We talked about Royce O'Neal. We talked about both those guys are power forward eligible. You can play them here. Chris Boucher, been playing him a ton, but this is obviously the spot to jump off now. Chris Boucher might not even play during the playoffs. He might not even be in the rotation. It's probably just going to be Ibaka and Gasol getting all the center minutes. So yeah, I think we covered everything for power forward today, guys. I think we broke it all down here. Let's go ahead and move on to center real quick, just before we end the video. So at the top, we got Joel Embiid for 10,200 against the Celtics. I do like Embiid quite a bit here as a pay-up option. He played last game for I don't know what reason. He had an ankle injury, and they decided to let him play against Houston in a meaningless game. I thought that was kind of stupid. He played 23 minutes, though. I expect him to be back to his normal run, probably 36, 38 minutes for Joel Embiid. Boston is a good defensive team, but they are definitely a team you can attack down low. Like, if you're going to play guys against Boston, you probably want to do it at the center position. I think Embiid can have success in this matchup. As a pay-up option at center, I don't mind him today, but kind of similar to Jokic, I don't think Embiid or Jokic are going to be two guys I go out of my way to play, especially because, I didn't mean to say Jokic, Embiid and Doncic, Embiid and Doncic, I don't expect those two guys to be guys that I go out of my way to play. Jokic, however, I do like a lot, and I think he is a guy that I want to try and pay up for on DraftKings. He's only 8,700. Seeing his price drop a lot, don't look at the game log. He's had his minutes limited because of Denver having nothing to play for. Now that the playoffs are here, expect Jokic to play huge minutes. I think we're going to see probably 34 to 36 minutes every night. Maybe even some games he gets up to 40 minutes, depending on if it's a close game. The Jazz, this is a pretty close matchup if I had to guess. I think these two teams, in terms of skill, are pretty even. I don't know if I had to pick a team to win this series. I think I would give the edge to Denver. But don't be surprised to see this series go 6-7 games, probably 7 games. Jokic, they're going to need everything they can get from him for them to come out ahead in this series. I like him a lot at 8,700. Expect Jokic to get back to playing his normal 36, 38 minutes. Expect huge minutes from him. He's going to be very productive when he's on the floor. We know how good Jokic is on a point-per-minute basis. And especially if Barton and Harris remain out, that is a little bit of a bump for Jokic. I like him a ton on DraftKings. I think he is underpriced. He was 9,400 on the last slate. And now that he's back to playing his normal minutes, they decided to price him down to 8,700. I don't think that really makes much sense. I like Jokic a lot on DK. I don't mind him on Yahoo, but he is appropriately priced there. He's $44. He's $5 less than Embiid. He's $5 more than Porzingis. I don't have a preference there. If you want to get up to Embiid, I don't mind that. But on DraftKings, where Embiid and Jokic are, or Jokic is like $1,500 less, definitely give me Jokic at 8,700. I do prefer him over Porzingis, given the $400 difference. I just don't think that's enough savings for me to want to go to Porzingis. Although this is also a good spot for Porzingis. The Clippers are a good defensive team, but they are definitely a team that can be attacked down low with bigs. We saw Porzingis have a lot of success against the Clippers when they played during the seeding games, 51 DraftKings points in 38 minutes. I don't mind him here. I just think I would prefer to get to Jokic if possible. Jared Allen, though, someone I like a lot as well. I have a feeling I'm going to be pretty heavy on Brooklyn. I'm not going to be playing a bunch of other guys from Brooklyn, but I'm definitely going to have a lot of Jared Allen and a lot of Caris LeVert because I just expect those two guys to be the two guys that do all the heavy lifting for Brooklyn, that play big minutes, that get all the production. I like Allen a lot on both sides. He's $7K on DraftKings, only $27 on Yahoo. I like that Yahoo price a ton. So if we do look at Jared Allen's numbers with all these guys off the floor, he also gets a bump. We take a look at him. He's played 245 minutes with all of Jordan, Irving, Dinwiddie, and Prince off the floor. Obviously, Jared Allen's not a high-usage player, but he's a very productive player on a point-per-minute basis. Averages 1.13 fantasy points per minute. Has a very solid 17.7% total rebound percentage, which is the highest on the team. You take Jordan off the floor. Jordan and Allen weren't really playing alongside each other. But when you get Jordan off the floor, that allows Allen to play more minutes because he doesn't have to worry about Jordan taking his minutes. And we've seen that, in the games that Allen has played during the seeding games, the games that were close, he was getting 36, 38, 37 minutes. Only played 28 minutes against Boston, but that was a blowout. 27 minutes against Orlando. That was a blowout, I believe, as well. Even though, the Nets kind of came back to keep it within 10 points, it was still a blowout. I expect Jared Allen to probably play 36 to 38 minutes today if it's a close game. That's my only concern here. Can Brooklyn keep it close against Toronto? If they can, it's going to be because of Jared Allen and because of Caris LeVert. Those are the two guys I really want to target from Brooklyn. And I think both guys are underpriced now that we know they're going to be locked into huge minutes. 7K, even in a tough matchup against the Raptors, I like Jared Allen a lot here. I think him and Caris LeVert look like great plays from Brooklyn. I think we're going to see their prices, start rising as the playoffs go on. As these guys continue to play 36, 38 minutes every night, they're going to be, we're going to see Caris LeVert probably get up to like 9K if I had to guess. We're going to see Allen probably around 8,500. these two guys, LeVert, he's probably going to give you 45, 50 DraftKings points most nights. Excuse me. Most nights. Allen's probably going to give you about 35 to 40 most nights, probably more than that. I like both these guys a ton. I just hope they can keep the game close and we can get the full minutes out of LeVert and Allen. But looking at other centers, I talked about Horford. I do like him, but prefer to roster him on Yahoo where he's so cheap. Montrezl Harrell is making his return. I don't know if I want to go to him, though. I just don't know what the minutes are going to look like. He's not that cheap either. He's $5,900. I'd rather try and get up to Jared Allen if you can. Ivica Zubac, someone I do like quite a bit, so I don't know what his minutes are going to look like. Obviously last game he was limited because they had nothing to play for. But in the games they were going all out in, Zubac was getting about mid-20s in minutes, 22, 24. Now that Montrezl Harrell's back, I expect him to probably be around 20 to 22 minutes. But Zubac is still such a productive player that he can, have success even in 20 to 22 minutes. The matchup against Dallas, I think it's actually a pretty good one because they're going to need a guy with size out there to defend Porzingis. Montrezl Harrell is kind of undersized compared to Porzingis. I think this could be a spot where we maybe see Harrell, especially because it's his first game back. Does he play full minutes? I don't think so. I think Harrell probably gets about 24, 26 minutes off the bench, and we probably see Zubac get about 22 to 24. I do like Zubac as a value. He's pretty cheap. He's $4,100. I think this is a spot where, he matches up well compared to Harrell when it comes to defending a big guy like Porzingis. So at $4,100, I think Zubac makes sense as a value center. But there's no one else that I really want to go to. A lot of these guys we've been playing recently, like Boban, Tony Bradley, Kyle O'Quinn, these guys just aren't going to be in play now that the playoffs are here. These guys probably aren't even going to touch the floor if I had to guess. I doubt Boban or Kyle O'Quinn, I doubt they're even in the rotation. So that's probably it for center for me, guys. I think we broke everything down for this 4-game slate. First round of the playoffs, it should be very fun. We got games going on all day. You have one game going on after the other. So, you can watch one game, and then when the next game starts, you can watch that one. You don't have to worry about, 3 or 4 games going off at the same time. You can tune into each game. Makes for a very fun sweat in terms of DFS. Should be pretty easy as well to predict, in terms of what these teams are going to do. Now that it's the playoffs, you're going to expect the starters to play big minutes. You're going to expect the bench guys, the guys that are coming off the bench, to be probably around the 22 to 24-minute range. I don't think we're going to see a lot of heavy rotations. All these teams are probably going to run 9, 8-man rotations, maybe 10, but I think that's unlikely. I think we're going to see every team probably running a 9 rotation at the max, if I had to guess. A lot of teams, though, probably will be going with 8-man rotations. Should be easy to predict, I think. Definitely going to be, you're not going to have to worry about late news as much as you did, during the seeding games. Now that the playoffs are here, you're not going to see the stupid leg scratches and the weird starting lineups. Expect everything to get back to normal. So yeah, should be a fun slate, guys. I hope you did enjoy this video. I really do appreciate you watching. If you did enjoy, hit that like button before you get out of here. Hit the subscribe button as well. Click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. And if you want to check out some of my Patreon content, if you want to get more stuff from me than just the videos I put up on YouTube, I do have content available on Patreon. That is linked down below in the description. You can check that out. Maybe you'll enjoy the content I have over there. I provide, sort of like videos on YouTube, whereas I'm doing written content on Patreon. I do articles Monday through Friday for both NBA and MLB. Like I said, I give updated core plays. I'm in Discord throughout the day to answer questions, to talk through the slate. So yeah, check out the Patreon link down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I think we covered it all, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.